Versatile Mage. Chapter 128. Intermediate Level Battle. It was clear that the man wearing a tang suit had been at the intermediate level for quite a while. The fluency of his casting was much more proficient than Mo Fan's, and the most important thing was, the other person was using his own control to draw the star atlas. As the three people dispersed, a colossal fist of flames suddenly rumbled down from the heavens. The small mountain ridge seemed unable to endure the power of the flames as it began to tremble fiercely. The heat became increasingly violent. Some of the surrounding trees quickly snapped off, and the treetops were so bent that they almost touched the ground. As the colossal fist of flames charged in, the hunter magicians began to scatter in fear, leaving only the cowboy standing there. There was no sign of him evading the spell. His eyes even revealed a bit of disdain. Rock barrier, stone range. The cowboy man yelled out, his two hands beginning to push forward. Within the tongue of the flame, a rock wall emerged, forming into a rugged barrier of massive stones. The rugged wall of stones looked like a shield that protected the people inside it, so thick that nothing could break through it. The colossal fist of flames that exploded at the top of the mountain actually left behind an imprint, but the waves of flames could only flow out into the surrounding area as they were diverted by the stone barrier. Mo Fan gaped at the sight. He knew the power of Fiery Fist. The strongest part of Fiery Fist was the very center, which could burn buildings into ash. Its attack power was enough to destroy an entire bungalow. However, when the incredible might of Fiery Fist smashed into the stone wall, it was completely blocked. The cowboy man who stood against the Fiery Fist was unharmed, and so were the people behind him. Intermediate Rock Spell, Rock Barrier. Formerly the strongest defensive spell of the intermediate level, Tang Yu explained, her tone that of a patient teacher, sharing information Mo Fan had not known about the intermediate realm. Impressive, Mo Fan exclaimed. At the primary level, everyone only possessed a single spell. Thus, in a magic duel, combatants would simply take turns attacking. At the intermediate level, everyone possessed 4 spells. A duel between magicians became a battle of tricks, mixing tactics of attack and defense. Although the hunter magician squad wasn't well known, their matchup was incredibly well balanced. After Cowboy Man finished his defensive tactic, the man with scars on his face completed his casting of an intermediate wind spell from beneath the rocks. Wind trail, tornado. Phew! A gale suddenly erupted. The dry, warm air was quickly blown away by the vicious wind. The people standing by the small reservoir could clearly feel the air within 100 meters frantically rushing toward a designated point. The streams of air converged into the most constrained area, swirling and building into a frightening tornado. The tornado spun dust into itself, forming a hazy yellow dragon stretching across the sky. Even the surrounding trees could not endure the strength of the wind and were nearly torn into the tornado. As the frenzied winds struck Mo Fan's face, they began to sting. He could no longer clearly see the situation by the reservoir, only that vicious tornado, like a monster, turning the entire place upside down. Mo Fan had experienced the intermediate wind magic before, and seeing it again now made his heart surge with excitement. Compared to the primary level wind track, the intermediate wind spell was like a tyrannosaurus. Its destructive power was incredibly frightening. After the tornado passed, the small reservoir had completely changed. Trees were bent, or collapsed, and stones lay scattered everywhere. In the center of the chaos stood the 4 magicians from the Dongfang family. They seemed to have used some kind of magic tool to defend themselves, as they were not sucked into the sky. If they had been, they would have been half dead from such a fall. Although the 4 defended themselves, their appearances showed they were in a difficult situation. The man in the tang suit had clear anger on his face. Both sides were now burning with rage, and the magicians no longer cautiously used their intermediate spells. Mo Fan and Tang Yu retreated over 50 paces to avoid the crossfire. The fight continued for 10 minutes, with magic tools being brought out as well. Ultimately, The man in the Tang suit used a Death Strike magic tool to break through the scarred man's rock shield. The Hunter Magician squad retreated in shock. Once the defense was gone, the group of Hunter Magicians, who needed their entire team to compete, were completely overwhelmed by the 4 intermediate magicians. Today, I will give your Hunter Union some face. If you don't get out now, I will burn all of you into ashes. When the enforcement team comes, they won't be able to find a single trace of you. The man in the Tang suit yelled angrily, a golden ball of flame emerging from his hand. Shung Pan and his people were incredibly reluctant, but they had no ability to fight back. It wasn't that their skills were lacking, it was that these family members had far too much magical equipment. Even if they managed to suppress their opponents in terms of skill, they would still be easily defeated by the magical tools. At this point, the difference between an influential family and a grassroots magician was painfully clear. We'll go. Shung Pan clenched his teeth, carrying his unconscious teammate. At least no one had died. In truth, the Dongfang family members could easily have killed them, but they refrained to avoid potential repercussions from the court association. Magicians fighting over treasures in the outside world was common. Many magicians at higher realms had their hands stained with the blood of comrades. The Hunter Magicians valued their lives over the Fire Soul Seed. The group quickly retreated, too exhausted to linger. The 4 Dongfang family members let out long breaths, finally relaxing after seeing the Hunter Magicians leave. Shit, they even dared to mess with us. I reckon our loss was quite big too. My Nebula is nearly exhausted, the handsome, spiky-haired man cursed. Yeah, it was thanks to what Brother Jun said. Just scare them away directly. The face of the Tang suit man hadn't relaxed. Those Hunter Magicians usually fought against magical beasts and were stronger than intermediate magicians who stayed in the city. Thankfully, he had brought 3 elites from the family, otherwise, he might have died here. The Hunter Union members were definitely not people they could provoke easily. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.